Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's the J Gemini. Hope everybody's doing well. I know it's been a crazy year, a lot of different things going on, a lot of things out of our control. I mean, geez, it hasn't been just a couple months, it's been the whole dang thing. It's just been like, what's next, right? So I wanted to make a video, hopefully get some people's minds off of there, get some people thinking, and maybe introduced to a knife that they haven't considered or they've seen, but they've just kind of been onto some different models. And how I'm going to do that is actually kind of fun and different. I am going to tell you why the Spyderco Manix is the most Spyderco-y Spyderco. Is that a term? Anyways, so the Manix 2. Manix 2 is a knife that has been around in Spyderco's lineup for a long time. But I feel like it's one that actually gets overlooked quite a lot, even though it is a USA model. I feel like when people think of the core Spyderco, it's always the paramilitary. That's the social media superstar. That's the one that people want to get all the sprint runs in. They want to try everything out. That's the one people rave about. Also, the Para 3 is great. They also have their lightweight model now of the Para 3. Hopefully they make a Para 2 lightweight. That would be cool. But, you know, I digress. You get it. The paramilitary series is definitely the sort of dominant, most prominent one when it comes to the Spyderco lineup. Also, you look at the Endura. A lot of people would say that's the most Spyderco-y Spyderco because that was the Dura and then the Delica were sort of like your first two main Spydercos that had the pocket clip with the clip-it Spydercos, and then later on, you know, all the modifications and renovations that Spyderco ends up going ahead and doing. But I would wager that this is actually the most Spyderco-y Spyderco, sorry, and I'm going to tell you why. So the first thing is the blade steel. The blade steel is something that I feel like is very unique to Spyderco. You'll have some companies that make a knife in a couple different steels, right? You can have a entry-level value model, and then you can have the nice model. Take steel wheel for example. Another option is you have, you know, some of the Vaxman's knives that come out, like the Suru, for example. That's a really cool one. You can get that in N690 from Fox, I believe it is, or you can get it in the nice M390, the, you know, the hot steel right now, with everything going on. So, you know, long and short of it, with Spyderco, they are the real only company that really takes and experiments with just about anything they do, whether it's the materials they use, the locks that they've ended up going ahead and using over the years, and mainly the steels. And that's what makes the sprint runs so popular and kind of a thing that, you know, other people try and do, but they feel like they kind of drop short. You know, ZT, they'll make a sprint run in the same steel, or a steel that's very similar, like from 20 CV to M390. That's not really a sprint run. Spyderco, as you can see with this one, this is in 4V, high carbon steel that's extremely tough. I've seen Dutch bushcraft knives take a 4V knife and bury it through a brick in a pan, sharpen it, and the edge is completely fine. Well, before they sharpen it, the edge was pretty dang nice for everything they did. I mean, they did everything but drill it through a car door and stand on it, basically. But the material of the blade isn't so important, other than it's the concept that you actually have multiple steels constantly coming out with sprint runs, and that's a very Spyderco-y thing. The next thing, focusing on the blade, is the blade shape. You know, when you look at the Endura and the paramilitary too, although it is a unique shape as well, I feel like something that I only see on Spyderco's and is very iconic to me is this leaf-shaped blade. I mean, you really don't need much more of an explanation than that, do you? I mean, look at it. But the leaf-shaped blade is actually pretty great because you kind of mixes a lot of different blade shapes that we love. The drop point, I'm a big, you know, fan of that. It's a very popular and useful blade shape. You know, my favorite knife is the Benchmade Bug Out, and that has a sort of drop point that meets, you know, to it, but has more belly. And then a flat area, with the blade shape of the leaf, you have a constant belly that sweeps the whole edge, but there isn't really at one point at which it's extreme, like a Persian style blade that would really sweep up, that almost becomes a little useless when you're opening packages, or a Warren Cliff that is sort of, really useful for just EDC and opening packages, but maybe isn't the best for, if you're going to cut some rope or cut some vegetables or something like that. So this leaf style blade is another reason why this is sort of like the Spyderco. The next thing, which I think really inspired me to to go ahead and make this video, is their, what do they call it? Constant improvement? Something along those lines. Basically, Spyderco has this idea that as they make a knife, they constantly improve on it. And I wish this is something that other manufacturers did so much. But we see this, for example, with the smock. Another great Spyderco. Basically, when it first came out, it had a proprietary clip and some different things with the action. And then they actually ended up moving it to this, your sort of OG standard Spyderco clip that, they make Lynch clips in, and all sorts of other titanium variants and things like that. So, I mean, that's a small thing, but with this, I feel like it really takes it for the extreme. Like, instead of revolution, it's evolution of the beast. You take a look inside of this knife and you can see exactly why. If you look, hopefully you're able to see, but you can actually see that they have completely gutted this knife in all sorts of different places to lighten it up. And I feel like even the paramilitary 2, as great as it is and as popular as it is, they released a lightweight model of the Para 3, but they haven't actually taken and said, hey, how much further can we push it? How much more can we evolve this design? So even though this knife feels way more tanky and much more like ZT350, for example, but is still like, wow, this thing's freaking light. What's going on? Instead of something like that, that's like a 7-ounce knife, I would probably believe that this is in the high 3s or mid 4s. It feels completely manageable with the weight. And this constant improvement, looking for any little way to make the knife better, change geometries, change materials, like this right here, cut out. And this isn't even the lightweight model. They literally make a model that's just plastic with the backspacer locking system and then the blade. And that thing is, the amount of knife that you get, it's insanely lightweight. Sorry, geez, going all over the place, thinking a little too hard here, right? So that's another thing that actually really makes this knife, I just feel like, the pinnacle of what Spyderco is all about. The most Spyderco is just that sort of like constant improvement, with the lightning and, the materials, everything. The other thing that really just drives it home as the last and final thing, to not go on too much, is, my God, these freaking ergonomics. I'm all about fidgeting, as you can see that I've been doing. And, just to touch base, that's another thing, Spyderco experiments, blah, blah, blah. They experiment with the locks, even though this lock is very similar to an axis lock. So some people would say, hey, the compression lock is going to be the knife that is the most Spyderco-y, right? And even though I can kind of understand where people are coming from, this is also a lock that, although very similar, is actually Spyderco's own thing. It's patented. It's actually a ball that rolls on the back of the blade, and this cage just sort of hugs the ball. And so when you pull on the cage, it just moves the ball, but it's actually not attached to the ball itself. This actually makes it for an extremely smooth action because the ball is rolling, and then it presses on the back of this, and the sandwiches it in between the blades. So it is insanely strong. I can't stress that enough. You will break the back of this steel liner out before you actually end up breaking that, or the blade will actually come off and break right here at the pivot point before you break this lock. I've actually seen this in testing by Blade HQ. But like I was saying, back to what the original point was, the ergonomics of this knife are insane. And I feel like that's something that is so predominant on Spyderco's, is they say that we design knives in the dark, is what they end up saying. So the knife itself might not be something that you think is pretty. A lot of people think the paramilitary 2 is not attractive. I think this knife, the Manix, is gorgeous. It looks fast and curvy, but it's not like it's trying too hard like a ZT where they add all these whatever, zigs and zags, whatever you want to say it. Everything makes sense here, but yet it because of that, it's like attractive because of that. I don't know how to explain it other than that, right? It's kind of like with a Porsche 911. They say that everything is stripped away and they're needing what's needed to be. There isn't too much that's just raw embellishment because of the fact. It's not like a Lamborghini Countach where the wing on the back probably doesn't have any downforce. It just looks ridiculous. This is sort of the same as, reason for that. You get this jimping right here, but it doesn't tear up your hand. Also in here as well, but when you look at the side of the knife, it's almost unnoticeable as well up in here. I mean, you have, unlike the paramilitary, you have this secondary choil area, I would say, right here, and also this bend in the back. But it's not just for aesthetics. It's because when you grab this, your thumb naturally goes down like this. You can choke back on the knife all the way back here as well, feel comfortable with it. And then the main thing is the choil up here really just locks in even more. You don't have that insane aggressive sweep up like you do on the paras. This is more gradual, and because of that, it makes it seem like the choking up on the knife like this, like it's a part of your hand. On the paramilitary 2, it seems a little pointless. I feel like I have just as much control back here as I do up here, and it just feels a little awkward. This, the way it locks in, is just like so much more detail oriented, while back here would be sort of if you needed to stab into something, or I don't know thing one about combat, but I would feel very like secure if I had to try and present this to somebody like, hey, don't come near me or something like that. So I would say this is probably the most ergonomic knife I've ever put in my hands, and I would stand behind that. Having this knife for, that was the first thing I thought when I had the original black one that I ended up selling. And now that I have this St. Nick's version, I feel the exact same way. So those are the things that make it the most Spyderco-y Spyderco. Leaf-shaped blade, the fact that there are multiple blade steels, they run the whole sprint run gamut, which is a very Spyderco-y thing. The constant development and improvement, or whatever they call it, I wish I remembered. The fact that it has the right Spyderco pocket clip is a plus, right? And also the ergonomics, that even though this knife might not seem it to some, it's like it's been designed in the dark to just mold to the human body and become like essentially another part of your body, instead of you having to worry about it looking crazy and having a lot of things that don't really matter to it. So yeah, hopefully this has kind of made you think, I need a Manix in my life, because this knife really, even though it's a bigger knife than I would say something like your Bug Out, it's definitely smaller than some really crazy overbuilt tactical folders that are like 4 inches long. It's a perfect size and a perfect mid-size knife, and one that you need to buy. So hope you enjoyed the video. Sorry if I sort of blabbered on. I'm just sort of a fan of this knife for sure, if you haven't noticed. And I'll keep you updated on how the carbon steel is doing. If you like the video, please like and subscribe, like I was saying. And I hope to produce more content. Might even be modding this guy, sort of tuning it up even more. It's already a special knife with the version it is. It's quite valuable as far as the sprint runs do go. But I thought about maybe making it even more luxurious with red micarta scales and doing a little bit of a different pocket clip, but that's neither here nor there. Hope you did enjoy the video, and I hope that everybody continues to be safe, and I'll talk to you guys soon. You take care. Bye-bye.